Hello, MTG friends. Zach here, back with part 2 of a look at Streets of New Capenna as possibly the best standard set for Commander ever. So, we left off yesterday by covering all of the mono-colored cards and each of the legends that were printed for this set. So we're going to continue off with the multicolored cards, the colorless cards, and the lands. This is going to be a shorter video than yesterday, but we were really pushing it on length, so I figured it was the best time to cut. So, let's get right into it. First of our multicolored cards is Black Market Tycoon. This is red and a green for a 2/2 cat rogue. At the beginning of your upkeep, it deals 2 damage to you for each treasure you control. You can tap it to create a treasure token. This is a really interesting kind of push and pull type card where it's really inexpensive to play. You can make a treasure token every single turn with this card. You can also block as a 2/2. You can make the treasure at instant speed, but he's going to ping you unless you spend your treasures. However, if you're willing to take that 2 damage, this card is an absolute house. And even if you're not, this is basically a 2-mana mana dork. I, however, play it in Ginny Fey, a Jetmir second, as a way to tap and just make yourself a free token that isn't even a treasure, so I don't even have to worry about taking damage with them. Really interesting card. There's a lot of tension on this card, and I think it's very playable and very fun. We have Corpse Explosion next as a removal spell. It's a sorcery, 1 black-red. You exile a creature from your graveyard when you cast this, and it deals damage to the equal to the exiled card's power to each creature and each planeswalker. It's a pretty spicy little board wipe as long as you have something decent in your graveyard that is bigger than the board, or at least big enough to wipe everything that you need to wipe. The fact this also hits planeswalkers, I think, is pretty relevant as well. We have Scheming Fence next. This is a white and a blue, 2/3 human citizen. When it enters, you pick a non-land permanent. You don't even target it, you just pick one. The activated abilities of that permanent cannot be activated, and Scheming Fence now has all of those activated abilities except for loyalty abilities. You can spend mana as though it were mana of any color to activate those abilities. Soul Ring? I have a Soul Ring now, and you don't get to use yours. Mana Crypt? I have the Mana Crypt's activated ability and none of the downside. Your opponent still has to flip every single turn too. That's really important in my opinion. Scheming Fence is a very interesting card, very targeted on activated abilities, but if your opponent's playing something with a dangerous activated ability, Scheming Fence is a really interesting way to just turn that off. It's also a really rich flicker target, where if somebody plays something that's even more dangerous than what you've hit with the fence, you can flicker him, reset what you're targeting, and get yourself something new as well. Pretty interesting card. I have tried this out in my Yorion deck. It didn't quite fit what I was trying to do, but I think this card is still really interesting and well worth trying out if you're in a very heavy activated abilities playgroup or a store. All right, next up we have a cycle. This is the Charm cycle. There are 5 brand new charms in this set, each of them a 3-color instant. We're going to start with Broker's Charm because it's the one that I happened to stick in the middle because it starts with the earliest letter of the alphabet. This is the Bant Charm. But it's not Bant Charm, it's Broker's Charm. It's an instant. You get to either give a creature +1/+0 until end of turn and have it deal damage to a creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. You can destroy an enchantment or draw 2 cards. There's Cabaretti Charm up in the upper left here. It is the Naya Charm, but it's not Naya Charm. You know the drill. It deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control to target creature or planeswalker. Gives your creatures +1/+1 and trample until end of turn, or you make 2 1/1 green and white citizens. Maestro's Charm in the bottom left is the Grixis one. It is, look at the top 5 cards of your library, put one of those cards into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Each opponent loses 3 life and you gain 3 life, or deal 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Remember, you only get to choose one of these. Obscura Charm up in the upper right is the Esper colors. You can return target multicolored permanent with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. You can counter an instant or sorcery spell, or destroy target creature or planeswalker with mana value 3 or less. All right, I'm going to move myself up, up out of the way for Riveteer's Charm here, which is another instant. This is Enjund. Target opponent sacks a creature or planeswalker they control with the highest mana value among creatures and planeswalkers they control. Exile the top 3 cards of your library, and you can play those cards until the end of your next end step, or exile target player's graveyard. All right, let's move me back down, but we're going to be moving around a couple times here, because next we are looking at this cycle. I don't really know how to describe it. They're land fixing cycle. These cards are just fascinating to me because all of them are high mana value semi-threats later in the game, but all 5 of them have an activated ability where you pay 2, exile that card from your hand, and then a target land gains, add its colors, and any of those colors. So, for example, in Glamorous Outlaw, you can add blue, black, or red, and that land gains that until Glamorous Outlaw is cast from exile. So as long as Glamorous Outlaw is sitting in exile, your land has that, and then you can cast Glamorous Outlaw for as long as it remains exiled. Each of these have different effects when they're on the board. So let's go through each of those quickly, but the reason I think these are interesting is they are color fixers, giving your lands extra abilities until you no longer need them anymore, and then you want to drop a hefty 5 to 7 mana card out onto the board. So we'll start with Glamorous Outlaw. It is a 4/5 for 6. When it enters, it deals 2 damage to each opponent, and you scry 2. Masked Bandits over here is just a 5/5 with Vigilance and Menace for 6. The Rakish Revelers is a 5/3 that when it enters, you make a 1/1 Citizen for 5. Shattered Seraph is the most expensive one. It is a 4/4 flyer for 7, but when it enters, you gain 3 life. Now let's move me way up into the other corner here, and we're going to go over Sparrow's Adjudicator, which is a 5 mana 4/4. When it enters, target opponent and target creature, an opponent controls can't attack or block until your next turn. None of these cards are going to break the game. They might not even win the game on their own because they're commons. That's the point. They're not supposed to win the game on their own. But they are essentially cards in your hand that for 2 mana allow you to turn one of your lands into a tri-land with all of its abilities still. And then later on in the game, when you're ready, you just have that card sitting waiting for you in exile. And I think that's certainly worth a little bit here. Also, the arts on these are just phenomenal. All right. We're going to talk about Broker's Ascendancy next. We are not talking about all 5 of the Ascendancies, which is why I just didn't put them into a big cycle here. Some are better than others. This one is the Bant-colored one, so green, white, and blue. For an enchantment, it says at the beginning of your end step, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control, and a loyalty counter on each planeswalker you control. This is a really, really important enchantment, in my opinion. For one, every one of your end steps, not every end step, you're going to grow your team just a little bit, but the fact that it also tosses a loyalty on every planeswalker you control, I think is really worth your time. And if you are in 3, 4, 5 color decks that care about planeswalkers, and you've got green, white, and blue in your commander identity, I think Broker's Ascendancy is a phenomenal addition to your deck. We have Endless Detour next, also in Bant colors. It's an instant. The owner of target spell, non-land permanent, or card in a graveyard puts it either on top or bottom of their library. They have to choose. They choose where it goes, but you can hit a spell, any permanent that isn't a land or something out of the graveyard. Majorly flexible card. You can get your own thing out of your graveyard on top of your deck. You can dodge a counter spell by putting your card maybe back on top of your deck. Or you can just bounce something off the board and force your opponent to draw. It's an excellent tempo play. I really like Endless Detour as a removal. We have Maestro's Ascendancy here. This is in Grixis, so blue, black, and red. It's an enchantment that says, once during each of your turns, you may cast an instant or sorcery from your graveyard by sacking a creature in addition to paying its other costs, and then you exile the instant or sorcery once it's done resolving. This is phenomenal. It's a really easy way to just make use of some extra tokens you have laying around, or a creature that's finished being valuable, or maybe even a creature that's about to die in combat on your turn, and you have an instant in your graveyard you'd rather play instead. This card is super flexible, provides a lot of value for Grixis Spellslinger type decks. Really, really good card. I mean, every single one of them, you just sack a creature, and then you get to do the rest of the spell as long as you pay its mana cost. I love Maestro's Ascendancy. It's really, really strong. If you haven't tried it out yet, you absolutely should. And then we have Maestros Diabolist. Same cost, blue, black, red, for a 1/4 with Death Touch and Haste. When it attacks, if you don't control a devil token, create a tapped one. That's a 1/1 red devil with, when it dies, it deals a damage to any target. I really like the Maestros Diabolist, like a whole lot. It itself is a decent-sized body with the Death Touch, making it so much harder to block. Hasty Threat just drops down and goes. And it comes with a free 1/1 that also pings when it dies. I am playing this in my Goro Goro and Satoru deck that cares about creatures dealing damage to an opponent the turn they entered the board. And I think the Diabolist is a really powerful way to do that. We have Riveteer's Ascendancy next in Jund colors. Whenever you sacrifice a creature, you can return target creature card with lesser mana value from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped, but you can only do it once a turn. This card is crazy. Every single time you sacrifice something for the first time each turn, not just your turn, each turn, you get something back. You are recurring something. It doesn't have to be a huge threat or anything, but you're getting something back, and I think that's really important and really powerful. We have Void Rend in Esper colors, white, blue, black. It's an instant that can't be countered, and it destroys target non-land permanent. This is one of the most flexible pieces of removal we've seen in a hot minute here. There is no downside. If it's not a land, Void Rends destroys it at instant speed, cannot be countered. Supremely powerful. This gets through ward. If your opponent has a ward trigger, you can choose to not pay the ward, and Void Rend will still blow it up. It cannot be countered. Crazy powerful card. All right, into the colorless cards, we have the Unlicensed Hearse next. I love the little hands just like sticking out of the coffin in the back here. But this is an absolute house of a hearse. It is an artifact vehicle for 2 mana. You can tap it to exile up to 2 cards from any one graveyard. So you can't split your exile targets up among 2 graveyards, but you get 2 cards out of a graveyard. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of cards exiled with it, and it only costs 2 to crew. To power, with the crew ability, not mana here. This card is supremely good targeted graveyard hate. It gets really big, really fast, and suddenly now you no longer need to start exiling cards because this thing becomes a really big threat, and you start swinging with like an 8/8, a 10/10 out of absolutely nowhere. Not nowhere. You got to build it up here. But since this is also an artifact, there are plenty of effects that untap your artifacts. And this hearse might be tapping 3-4 times, taking tight turns, stealing everybody's graveyards. We have Luxior, Giada's Gift. This is a 1-mana legendary equipment artifact. The equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each counter on it. The equipped creature isn't a planeswalker and is a creature in addition to its other types. You can equip a planeswalker for 1. You can equip anything else for 3. This card goes infinite with Devoted Druid. It also just makes your planeswalkers really dangerous. You can still activate their loyalty abilities. They still get the counters, and they just get bigger and bigger with Luxior. But I think the real combo here is something like Devoted Druid, where you're... or maybe just any other card that puts counters onto itself or likes to get counters, because Luxior is basically giving those counters an extra +1/+1 every single time. The reason it's so good with Devoted Druid is Devoted Druid puts a -1/-1 counter on itself to untap itself, and it taps for green. Luxior says it gets +1/+1 for each of any type of counter on it. And so you can infinitely untap your Devoted Druid, and then tap it again for green mana, and then when you untap it and put a or a -1/-1 counter on it, Luxior gives it enough boost to cancel that out effectively. It's a really powerful little combo. Wizards has been printing a lot of cards that go infinite with the Druid recently. This is just next in that long line. All right, we have Currency Converter next. It's a 1-mana artifact. When you pitch a card, you may exile it from your graveyard. For 2 mana, you can just draw a card, tap this, and discard a card as well. Wow, that was the wrong order. 2 mana, tap it, draw a card, discard a card. And then you can exile it from your graveyard. And then you can tap the Currency Converter. You put a card exiled with Currency Converter back into your graveyard. And then if it's a land, you make a treasure. And if it's a non-land, you make a 2/2 rogue. It's really, you're converting your currency. This is just effectively looting here. So you draw your card, then you pitch something. Later on, you get to put it back into your graveyard and get a benefit for that. And it doesn't even cost you mana to do that side. I think this card's really efficient. It's a nice way to get yourself either some extra mana or get yourself some extra creatures. And what I love, too, is that it doesn't care if you do the 2-mana tap, draw, discard. It just cares that you've discarded it and then exile it with this effect from Currency Converter. Really, really efficient little card. All right, we're on to the lands. We're going to just really quickly, the Triomes. The Triomes out of the set are game changers. The Ikoria ones were already amazing. And then we get the finished cycle with the remaining 5. These things are so high impact in Commander. Having 3 basic land types is incredible. Makes them easily fetchable, makes them easily searchable. They're phenomenal cards. And having that cycling 3, don't look down on that either. If it's late game and you pick up one of these and you don't need it, getting to pay 3 mana to pitch it and get something else is really valuable as well. That we have the next cycle of lands now. These are the sacrifice draw card lands, basically. These are non-basics that enter tapped, but then they tap for one of 2 colors. So they only did this half of the cycle. So there's a red and green one, a white and blue one, a green and white one, a black and red one, and a blue and black one. Then, once it's untapped and you want to, you can pay 2 and then the 2 colors that it makes and sack it to draw a card. If you are playing with tap lands in your commander decks, these are one of the best. Sure, they don't have a way to untap themselves, but like I would much rather have the ability to cash in my land later for a card than play like the temples where they always enter tapped and they just scry you one, or the gain lands, or even just the lands that don't have any effect and are tapped. You should absolutely be playing these if you are playing tap lands in your commander deck. Lastly, we have these sacrifice tutors. These are tri-fetch lands, but only for basics, but they're a little weird. So they themselves don't have to like tap or do anything. They're just, when it enters, sacrifice it. When you do, search your library for a basic forest, plains, or island, for instance on Broker's Hideout, put it onto the battlefield tapped, shuffle, and gain a life. So these are like your Evolving Wilds and its ilk, but in a sense they're better. Like if you're in a 3-color deck, maybe even a 4-color deck, they're going to be better than something like an Evolving Wilds because it enters, and then if you have something like Yavimaya or Urborg out, you can actually tap this and float the mana before it's sacrificed, so that's a nice little upside. And you also gain a life for going and getting that tapped basic land. I think these are honestly really impactful. And what's cool too is there's no actual like color on these, so you can play them in any deck. You could play Obscura Storefront in a mono white deck if you wanted to, just to go get your basic plains. You could even play it in a mono red deck. You shouldn't, but you can. Yeah. So that's these as well. And that, my friends, is the end. That is all I've got to discuss in terms of the cards out of this set. But I just want to quickly kind of wrap up the set as a whole. Streets of New Capenna, I thought, was just so incredibly impactful. Not just because we just talked about 100 and maybe a couple extra cards because of these cycles here, but the fact that both the commander set and the main set had a number of incredibly powerful pieces for 3-color and above decks, and also, monocolor decks, dual-color decks. But, like, this is a tri-colored set, and we got so much support for 3 colors that Commander had been sorely lacking. This covered so many different spectrums here. We got some cool new removal spells. We got a cycle of confluences in the Commander decks for 3 colors. I didn't think any of them were, like, impactful or good enough to be mentioned here, but they do exist, and you can definitely go look them up if that's something you're interested in checking out. We also got the charms that I thought were pretty strong, and we even got the remaining half of the Tri-Land cycle. Capenna offered so many interesting and unique new tools with a bunch of different counters and ways to move around counters, new ways to copy your spells, and I think is providing a lasting impact on Commander that will continue to be seen for the ongoing future. Streets of New Capenna was a roaring success, one might say. And I really appreciate the way that Wizards designed this set. Maybe not for Draft. Draft was a little iffy. It was secretly a 2-color set that pretended to be a 3rd color. But for Commander, even for Standard, Capenna has offered absolutely incredible cards at really interesting rates in really interesting groups of colors. And I wanted to shout that out. If there was anything in this set that you think that I missed out of all of these cards that I talked about, or maybe just your own experiences with some of the awesome cards in this set, please toss it down in the comments if you gave this a watch. Give this a like, subscribe if you want to see more ding dong, the bell nonsense. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about. So I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this if you did. We're going to keep trying to get some content out every single day for a little while here. Just keep trying to build up this channel here, get people watching again. So if you enjoyed this and you have some friends that are looking for some MTG content, would really appreciate it if you'd share as well. Just really help us build up that audience. So thank you very much for watching. I've been Zach, and I'll let you go from here. Thank you.